JazzFM website.
The Business Breakfast on JazzFM.
Good morning, good morning. It is 25 minutes past 6, Thursday the 17th of October. I'm Nick Howard. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Now, obviously we hit retail stories all the time on this programme. We constantly hear the same story when we're talking about shopping, that online is winning customers while the UK's high streets and shopping centres dwindle. There is an element of truth to that, of course. Footfall, the number of people visiting stores, has dropped by about 10% over the last 10 years. And the big brands, which are now, we see the vacant sites on our high streets. It shows that it isn't easy out there. But changing habits mean that businesses which are willing to move with the times also have opportunities. We are still leaving the house to buy things after all. Joining me now is Rhiannon Davies from LoyalZoo, which pitches itself as a digital loyalty card for small firms. Rhiannon, good to have you in the studio. This is an interesting idea, isn't it? Which essentially we're used to loyalty cards and loyalty schemes for larger brands, but it's the smaller, more independent chains and stores which are really going to be driving growth.
Yeah, so essentially what we have come up with is a technology that, big retailers had and small retailers didn't have. I think there's always this kind of like back and forth between, are the big guys doing it better than the small guys? I think there's definitely different aspects for those two sectors. But for us, really, it's about making the customer experience better and providing tools that effectively that big guys would have and the small guys wouldn't.
What does that actually look like then if you are a small store looking at your product?
Yeah, definitely. So a small business would be coming to us because effectively they want to set up their own reward system. So prime example of that would be reach 30 points and get a free coffee. And I think that has happened, very classically with paper and plastic cards. But it doesn't really retain the customer. There's no real engagement there. So what we're doing is we are being able to communicate those points in whatever it may be, like an SMS, or it might be in a push notification, and basically becoming like the marketing for a small business, because small business owners don't typically have a lot of savviness when it comes to the marketing aspect. So we're providing that, opening up that communication channel to the customer again.
The interesting thing with loyalty cards and things like that, loyalty schemes for me, is that it's always branded in terms of loyalty of the customer, that we're getting something back. But really, it's about data, isn't it? That it's about, as a big firm, you have access to what your customers are buying and, being able to make those connections. And this presumably allows smaller firms to have a piece of that.
I actually love that question because I think that's a little bit of a misconception, because when it comes to big retailers, that is 100% the reason why, well, not 100%, but almost 100%, the reason why they run a loyalty program is to get that data and to feed offers that might be tailorable. But for small retailers, it's very, very different. In our experience, it's more about, the marketing aspect, that they can just re-communicate to their customers. They don't really care how old their customers are, or if they're male or if they're female, or how old they are. They just want to know that their customer is coming back and buying from them time and time again. And
if that's the case, then, okay, so you are a US firm, you're now in the UK as well. What's the difference between the two markets? Is there anything? Because are there things which work in one which don't work in the other?
Yeah, definitely. I think the main difference that I personally see working for LoyalZoo is that US business owners, they are very, very focused on keeping things easy and really just making sure that there is that open communication flow between their customers. They want to do really good customer service. I mean, I think we all feel that from Americans when we go there and when we have customer service there. With the UK business owners, what I typically find is they get wrapped up a lot in the technology side, and they kind of like want to remove themselves from that human interaction. So we do find that there is a slight challenge there, because they're like, oh, how does the customer interact with your software and blah blah blah. It's like no, like a lot of our features are just making your human interaction a lot better.
That's interesting then. So the technology, there's I suppose kind of a habit that we fall into, that we effectively use the technology as a bit of a crutch.
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, then so obviously we've been looking at. Inevitably the question, of course, is that there are companies which are struggling, particularly on the high street. Would you actually tie this down to? Sorry, I'm going to rephrase that. There are going to be shop owners who think I'll be able to save my business if I invest in the technology, if I bring people back and forth. But actually what you're saying is that a lot of this is really down to the people skills involved, that the technology is just another factor in that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we see time and time again, and because tech is always so spoken about, that we get wrapped up in it, and it's like, how do we use tech better? And it's like, no, how do we have a really good product, and how do we have a really great human interaction? And yes, incorporate tech where that can make it better, but not to completely remove those two things.
Rhiannon, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Rhiannon Davies, their Chief Growth Officer from LoyalZoo. It is